It's time! What are you doing in my swamp?
Where you going, you dizzy motherfucker, you?
It's the Truth Teller Podcast.
You can't handle the truth!
All right, welcome to the Truth Teller Podcast. This is your host, Matt Randolph. I have joining me today at the round table local radio personality and marijuana extraordinaire, I guess, Drew Cobb. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure.
I'm glad you could come. I wish you would have been here earlier and you could set in on my interview with Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Oh, man, you told me about that a couple nights ago. I was really looking forward to checking that out. But fortunately, my job is doing radio, so I did do 12 hours almost of radio today. So I'm a little burnt out, but I have been looking forward to this all day. So I reserved a little bit of energy.
That's great, man.
So
a little bit about you. I know you came from Kentucky, and I got to tell you, you're kind of living the life that I wanted to live when I was your age. I wanted to have a cool gig like in radio like you got, and I wanted to be able to enjoy some marijuana legally. I could not do that at your age. So I'm a little envious of you. How old are you?
I'm 30.
You're 30?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was a little younger than that. How did you wind up in Elk City, Oklahoma?
Oil field. So I wound up here in 2005. My dad and my mom made a combined income of, I think, about $300 a week when I was growing up. And then my dad knew somebody who was related to somebody out here who started a flowback company. And he was one of those guys that kind of just got to jump in as a flowback hand. He got lucky back in 2004, stayed out here a year, then moved the rest of my family out here. And they've been here ever since. My mom actually just moved back home. My dad's still out here. In the 15 years since I've been out here, though, I've lived all over the country doing oil field stuff, trying to get into radio. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I could see that. So how'd you get your foot in the door? How did you get into radio?
With radio?
Yeah.
I've wanted to do it my entire life. So you know how most people are like, man, I just kind of lucked into this deal. And if you had asked me this, I would have had no idea. No, it was premeditated. Ever since I was a little kid, I always knew I wanted to be in journalism, broadcast journalism of some kind, whether it was TV, even writing. You know, I've always really enjoyed writing, but ever since I was in junior high, I was pushing for like a mass communications degree. I knew that's what I wanted to do. So getting my foot in the door was tough. It's really hard to get your foot in the door. So in high school, I used my, what do they call it, internship time at the radio station. I shadowed a guy named Brandon Harden, who's not here anymore. I actually took over his show, The Backroads, on KACO. So I'm actually doing his show now when, 15 years ago I was interning for him as that show was just getting lifted off. So it's kind of surreal there. But no, dude, I went to Southwestern for mass communications. I finished my major, didn't finish my degree. Right. I was also interning and working with the sports guys at Paragon Communications in between class and working, doing that. And then I came on full time a little over 3 years ago. And no turning back since.
So what is your favorite thing to do in radio?
Just being on the air, man. Like I really love my morning show I have with Chad every morning. It's super fun. We have a blast every time, but I really like my afternoon show by myself. I get to really use it as my creative outlet. I'm in control. It's my own. And that's what I've really always wanted. So I'd have to say my afternoon Backroads program from 3 to 6 is my favorite thing I've ever done. Of course, I've called basketball at the big house, in Oklahoma City. I've done that for several years. I've called a lot of big games, Hammond Girls State Championship games. But doing my show on the Backroads, our country station every day, is it's kick-ass, man. I love it.
Yeah. So this is my first show on video, and I just realized I've been staring at my software the whole time, and I look like I'm staring down at the video. But
you got to make it second nature, man. You got to learn how to do it without looking.
Yeah, I'm new to all this, as you know. But so let's talk about marijuana.
Okay.
Let's talk about marijuana.
Yeah.
So I have a confession to make.
Okay.
Now, I think you probably know that I'm pro marijuana, but what was it, 785?
Something like that. Yeah.
When the bill was being voted on, I was actually opposed to it. I was against it because I thought it was a bunch of bullshit. I thought, yeah, they're just calling it medical marijuana, but it's really recreational marijuana. Like, why can't they just call it what it is? And it wasn't that I was opposed to marijuana. I just wanted them to say this is actually what it's going to be. So what are your thoughts on that? It is really recreational, isn't it?
Yeah, well, to kind of, yes. But my thought process on that is, so what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the worst harm that can possibly come from it? It's just a little paperwork that you go through. You pay a little money, you get the card, and then you're legal. And the simple fact of the matter is, we've been doing this for 2 years now. Matter of fact, my card expires November 21st, so I'm now eligible to renew my card. So after my first 2 years of being a legal medical marijuana consumer, where's all the bad stuff coming from? If
Right.
it is as recreational, as highly recreational, and these people are not really needing it, even if that's the case, what's the worst that's happened? Nothing. Nobody. You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%.
Like, it's been pretty calm. But I was like you in the beginning, and I'll be honest, I don't want it to be recreationally legal. That kills the business side of it. I think how it's set up right now, medicinally, pretty much anybody can go get their card. Look, man, if you get nervous sometimes, for me, that's good enough of a reason to smoke weed.
Yeah.
To me, it's better than drinking. It's better than anything else. If you can channel all your frustrations into that, me personally, I believe that's better than how a lot of people exercise their demons. So I'm all for it. I just, recreationally, like they're trying to push for right now, I'll be honest, I'm not for it. You look at the states that have implemented recreational marijuana. I was there the first day Colorado legalized it. I was there the day, New Year's Day. Lines around blocks and blocks and blocks, dude. And I partook. But you look at those states now, Oregon, Colorado, California, the weed market, the business side of it is just trash. So the only way these people are being able to stay afloat is going back to the black market and sending that stuff to the states where it's still illegal. So I think that we just need to implement a blanket medical marijuana program over the entire thing. I don't care if it's medical or not. I think you need to keep it regulated as if it is medical marijuana. I think the recreational thing's just too far.
Yeah. And I don't know anything about the business finance side of all that. My thing was, we live in the heart of the Bible Belt, and probably the most conservative state in the country. And a lot of the things we do here, they try to make it look like something other than it is to save face. And I felt like that's what they were doing with marijuana.
Yeah.
I thought, why can't we just call it what it is? And I didn't have any problem. What's funny is I know a lot of people that have cards and they won't tell people because there's still a stigma to it.
Sure.
Even though it's legal, like they're secretly walking around with their marijuana card, which totally blows my mind. I don't know what the big rub about it is.
Well, it's just like having tattoos and piercings and stuff like that. And just like me, I'm sure you don't care if somebody has tattoos or piercings, but you know that you're probably not going to get the job when you go in there to apply for it because you've got them. Because somebody, as a business owner, you have to understand that even if you're not offended, a lot of your customers could be. You live in Western Oklahoma and you have to cater to your customers. So
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. That's about all there is to say about it. It is what it is.
So would you say so? With my job and my career, I don't have the luxury of participating in any of that. But from your experience, I'm assuming you did this a long time ago. Would you say that the product that's available now is a lot better?
Sure.
A lot better quality?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no question about that. I mean, I was still getting good product, but compared to what we have now, medicinally, it would be considered like mid-shelf or even bottom shelf. I don't know how much you know about it, but most dispensaries have 3 tiers of how they grade their medical marijuana, and it's usually the price reflects that as well. So you got your bottom tier, your mid tier, and your premium tier, which is your stuff that's kicking in, 23, 24% THC and up. It's silly. I don't know, man. I'm kind of tore on this deal because I also was a bud tender, for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to say this or not. That's the only thing. You may get it out of me here in a little bit. Let's keep talking a little bit.
What you want.
I don't want to make a bunch of people mad, especially local people, but Maybe we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that bunny hole just yet.
I can tell you this. I knew somebody that's been using marijuana for, I don't know, 50 years.
Sure.
So, and they tried some of this oil that's like 99% THC or something. And I told them, I said, you need to be very careful with that. This is not the shit you were doing in the 70s. Like, this will fuck you up, right? And totally disregarded what I said. And 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, they were like, holy shit, I think I'm going to die. Like, I'd laugh my ass off.
You've got to be extremely careful, man. You've got to be extremely, extremely careful. Like a lot of people, as a bud tender, here's one of the cool things that I like to talk about. As a bud tender, you think about stoner. Your typical stoner, you think of someone like me. You know what I mean? A Grateful Dead fan who doesn't groom very well and they have messy hair and they don't dress appropriately. You think of me. But as a bud tender, I would go ahead and say 60 to 70% of the patients that come through that door are 50 years old or older. And I see an extreme medicinal benefit for those type people. For the people my age, it's not so much that. It's more of a recreational type deal. But I do know that I have replaced every bit of pain medication that I've been prescribed before. I've replaced thyroid medication, blood pressure medication, everything that I've ever been on with medical marijuana. That's all I take.
Yeah.
So.
And for me, man, I guess it's the libertarian in me. I don't even care if it works medicinally. I think people have the right to do it if they want to do it.
Sure.
That's just my point of view. But I wanted to ask you because I knew that you were coming in, and I'd been thinking about this, and I remember, and maybe everybody has a story like this, but I remember the most I ever laughed when I was high. I remember the greatest high of my life. Do you remember yours? Do you have a certain story?
I don't know. It's not. It's been so long since I've been able to achieve that level of highness that I can't really remember. At this point, it's calms, takes me down a notch or two, and I go about my day. I don't think I have the ability to get affected like that. I remember. Here's what I do remember. I remember whenever I first started smoking, I was probably 19, 20 years old, and every time I would smoke, I would sit on the couch or whatever, and I would feel like I would sink into the couch and I'd get the giggles. But every time I'd close my eyes, there'd be black and white cartoons playing.
Oh, yeah.
and that, I remember, giggling and stuff with that. But I've never had like a bad experience like a lot of people have where they throw up or they go into a panic attack or they think, I'm having a heart attack. Like, I've never had that. I don't know. But I've witnessed many people freak the hell out. But it's never happened to me. And I've smoked weed every single day since I was 18 years old, probably, yeah.
Well, you probably got quite a tolerance built up.
Yeah, I do. Like you were talking about the 99% concentrates and stuff. Like that's a whole other ball game that wasn't around. Like you could get hash back then, which was, a different concentrated form of marijuana, but you were 50% THC. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Now we're doing stuff chemically. We in a lab, you're popping out 90, 95% THC concentrates. Now I'm a dabber. I don't smoke too much flower, but I can just take a little dab of concentrates, and that's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, and it gets me through lunch. Yeah. And then I go home at lunch and take one, and that gets me through 6 o'clock, and then I come home and I dab up and I go to bed and eat and go to bed. So really, I'm only taking 3 hits a day, but I am medicated 24/7. So that's the power of concentrates for you.
Yeah. So I'm totally ignorant to dab. Is that like a wax? Is that like a hash?
Yeah. So dabs it's just so concentrates. When I say concentrates, you'll hear terms like wax. You'll hear earwax. There's batter. There's shatter. Mm-hmm. There's crumble. There's all types of different concentrates, different consistencies, different potencies. It's all about the process. You can extract stuff with CO2. You can use butane. There are all kinds of different methods you can use to extract THC from the organic product. And you have an end result every time you do it. So it's really just preference. Me, I like batter. I like live resins and batters. I love the consistency of it. It feels like I get more for my dollar. I'm just a concentrates guy. Some anybody, you can give them a dab and they will literally think they're dying. For me, it's like brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
It's like if I gave you a dab, you would probably like.
Oh, I'd probably die.
Yeah, you'd probably die and then come back to life and die again.
Yeah. So my greatest high, and it's probably because
Were you trying to find out like what's the process of dabbing, or because?
No, I was just wondering specifically what it was,
or like what it was.
Yeah.
I should have brought some stuff. If you could have said something, I would have brought some stuff and I could have showed it off. But
so my greatest, I smoked pot as a young man, quite a bit, and then I grew up and started having kids and stuff, and I quit. But I had quit for probably about 10 years, and then I went on a road trip with a bunch of friends of mine. We all went out to Bristol to a NASCAR race.
That track's like sideways, man.
And me and a friend of mine were in a hotel, and he also had not smoked pot in probably 20 years, and I hadn't either. And we're in this hotel, and he's like, "Hey, man, I got something." And I'm like, "What?" And he pulled out this joint, and I was like, "Are you shitting me?" I was like, "I haven't smoked weed.
I'm not
in
ready
20
to
years.
do this."
So we're sitting in a hotel room, and I told him, I said, "Dude, we haven't done this in so long. There's no telling what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful." But I turn on, it's either Animal Planet or Discovery
it's the best.
Channel or something like that, and we sit there and we get high. And there is a documentary about penguins on. And these little fuckers are trying to climb up this glacier, and they're sliding down and crashing into each other. And it was the most hilarious thing I had ever seen in my life because I was stoned.
Yeah.
But we both laughed so hard that we did get physically ill. It was the only time I've ever been sick on pot. But it wasn't because of the pot. It was because we literally laughed so hard that we made ourselves sick. And I would highly recommend to anybody, if you get the opportunity to watch anything about penguins when you're stoned, do it.
I'm so envious.
Because I'm telling you, maybe I'm stupid. I just think it was the greatest thing ever.
See, I wish I could get that again. I would have to eat like some magic mushrooms or take acid in order for that to happen to me. I miss that, which you can always take a tolerance break. Mm-hmm. That's one thing you can do. Quit for a week or two and then come back. But it's never the same as like when you don't smoke for 20 years and then smoke a joint and watch penguins fall down a glacier, you know? I'm envious of that. But like I said, it's more of just like a routine for me now. It's just like you'd take your vitamins. It's weird. And it used to be such a big deal. Like when I was in college, I had this roommate who he'd never smoked, but he drank a lot, like in high school. And I got him to start smoking, dude. And it was such a big deal. Like he had this white t-shirt that he kept in like this spare closet separate from all his other clothes. And he would go put this t-shirt on just to smoke in case, somebody smelled it. Like that's how paranoid it used to be, I would almost be afraid to get as messed up as you were, because there's a chance that paranoia is going to set in and you're going to fear the Reaper,
Yeah. Yeah, I know a little bit about paranoia. I just saw you and Chad's new episode of the Jack Wagon podcast come out, and I used to live with the person that you were interviewing on that show, so I know all about paranoia. But I'll leave that at that. So,
that's interesting.
But yeah, that's cool. So, would you say? I was thinking about the word stoner. When I was young, the word stoner was like
Spicoli, man.
It was like an insult.
Yeah,
it was like it was negative, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that still applies? Do you think people use it in a negative context?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even in the medical marijuana community, there's like this hierarchy. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, we're all stoners, but we're the responsible stoners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's always a hierarchy of any group. There's always cliques within groups, and the drama that you see inside the Oklahoma Canna family is what they call it online. I laugh my butt off. These people that try to become influencers and like, I'll come review your stuff. What are you talking about? They're selling drugs. Drugs sell themselves. They don't need your word for it. Everything is different for everybody. And what another thing that bugs me, especially as a bud tender or whatever, people be, is it indica or is it sativa? I only smoke Blue Dream. That's the only strain. Look, man, you are never going to get identical genetics. You're not going to do it. That strain that you smoked that one time is specifically specific to that one mother plant. And yeah, it could get cloned a few times or whatnot, but you're not smoking the same Granddaddy Perp or OG Kush that they made, that they grew 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's completely different. So I can't stand people that come in there and say that, or they're like, I need an indica dominant this, or I need a sativa dominant this, when people think that indica means down and sativa means up. That is not true. There are so many sativa dominant strains that have the opposite effects, so many indica dominant strains that have the opposite effects. Here's what you have to do. Try everything.
Yeah.
Always. Because you're not going to die. There's no adverse effect to it. You might get hungry and pass out. So try everything until you find what you like, and buy that until they run out of it, and then find something else you like. Don't be that person that goes in there or goes to 12 different dispensaries and says, do you have Blue Dream number 7? Because if they do, there's a 99% chance it is not the same thing you're smoking. But psychologically, the placebo effect kicks in, and just because it says Blue Dream on the bottle, in your mind, it's the same thing. And I used to get such a kick out of that. I know that's a little rabbit hole, but I thought that was a side.
It's not really, because
Venture worth it.
You know, I've been into dispensaries just to check them out.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the same thing. This stuff isn't what people think it is. It's a distant cousin. Plus, every person reacts differently to different strains.
Sure.
So, and that's what I never got about the whole indica sativa thing, the up down thing. You know, you could, if you have a certain body type and you smoke an indica, it could have the exact opposite effects on you than it's supposed to, just because of your chemistry, right?
Yeah.
We're all snowflakes, right?
Yeah, of course.
Not in the political sense, but in the DNA sense. So, but yeah, I if I was to lose my job or move into another career where I didn't have to be
so
clean,
your job's considered a safety sensitive job?
Definitely.
It is?
Yeah.
So you're not in an office all day?
Even if I was, that my company would not. So basically the company I work for says, we're going to follow whatever the FDA says, because it's an international company.
Yeah.
It's not a state company. It's an international company. And when the FDA says it's fine to smoke it, then at that point you'll be able to smoke it. Because we have a lot of people where I work that work from out of state. We all travel into a different part of the country. And a lot of the people that I work with live in different states where it's legal.
Yeah.
And I reached out to leadership and I said, listen, you guys need to clarify some of this marijuana stuff, because we have people working here from all over the country, and a lot of them live in states where it's legal, and they may think it's okay for them to go get a card and do whatever. And so y'all really need to clarify that. So they came out, they clarified it, so if it ever becomes legal on a national level, that's when it'll probably be okay for us. My job is a safety sensitive job, but I'm not doing labor that's safety sensitive.
You got to use your head. Clearly.
I'm managing people that are
Sure.
doing safety sensitive work is the best way to
It's just such a double standard, though, that, a doctor could have you a prescription for benzodiazepine. They can have you on OxyContin. They can have you on that at the same time, and that'd be totally fine if you were working and you pissed hot for that. That's totally fine. But,
Absolutely.
But you smoke weed 6 months ago and it's still in your hair, because marijuana metabolizes in your body different than most drugs. It attaches to your fat cells, and it's stored there for a long, long time. It sticks with you, and that is totally discriminatory against people. Because when I worked in the oil field for 9 years, for example, like I said, I smoked weed every single day. Okay, and I worked with people who were on meth. They were doing cocaine. They were doing all these drugs on the weekends. And then 2 or 3 days later, they're clean because their drug of choice is meth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I would work for people who would make it a point to drug test you constantly because they want to catch you doing something. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like, you're coming after me while I'm one of the better workers you have. Like the person who's going to get hurt most out of this deal is you, because you're trying to catch people smoking weed when you've got people showing up hungover every day and fresh off of a meth binge. But you're going to sit here and try to get me fired because I smoke weed whenever I go home and eat dinner. Like, just that's been a double standard that I can't get over it, man. That pisses me off so bad. But I understand the oil field side of it. You know what I mean? Because I'm one of those people that's like, well, it's either all or none. Equality means everybody gets to do it or nobody gets to do it.
Yeah.
And it's always easier to say nobody can do it than everybody can have their way. So I kind of understand that side of it. Federally, something's going to have to happen so they can be like, okay.
Yeah, I think it will eventually happen federally. It's just everything in the United States happens at a very slow pace. So that's just how it's always been and how it always will be. So there's too many moving parts and too many people that can't agree on anything to get anything done around here. So, well,
like you said, man, North America is a recreational sandwich right now. So Canada last year legalized recreational marijuana. Mexico is in the process right now, I believe, of legalizing recreational marijuana, and more than half of the states in the United States, I think it's even over 30 of them now, have passed some form of either medical marijuana, and I think like 10 states have passed some form of recreational marijuana, I think. I haven't checked in on the numbers in a long time, but we are way past that tipping point. I mean, no matter what, you're still going to have more and more states acquiring legislation. The question is, will the federal government keep backed off? You know, during the Obama administration, he kind of made it a point, hey, we're not going to keep raiding all these dispensaries in California. The states have said that it's okay. We're just going to leave them alone. Seems like Trump has followed suit with that as well. I don't see them wasting much more of our tax dollars taking down dispensaries, especially after we've reached this tipping point where more than half of the states in the union have decided that this isn't a big deal. So as long as that's in place, I don't care if it is ever federally legal on a level. I'm just going to live in a state where it's legal. So federally, I'm not too concerned as long as they're not going to, enforce those federal laws.
Yeah,
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, and for me, like, pot's not a lifestyle for me. It's not something I would use every day. But I would like the option to do it if I felt like I wanted to do it. That's the whole thing. If it became legal for me today, that doesn't mean I'm running down to a dispensary and loading up on Kush or Blue Dream or whatever the hell you were talking about a minute ago. But
Alaskan Thunderfuck.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of Alaskan. So I have heard of Alaskan Thunderfuck.
The names are just getting ridiculous, man. I used to grow a little. The strain that I first developed, I called it Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Oklahoma. I thought it was I thought it was pretty clever.
Yeah. Oklahoma could be applied to a lot of things in the state, actually, now that I think about it.
You don't know what the second strain I developed was called?
What was that?
Helen Keller.
Helen Keller?
Yeah.
Would you go blind?
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. It was the best I ever grew. I'd had a short stint in growing. I was very paranoid when I was doing it. At the time I was doing it, your first offense, I think, was minimum 15 years.
It was.
Or it might even have been 20 years.
Yeah.
But I was growing like 4 or 5 plants, in my closet in a little hydroponic grow cabinet, and I was growing good stuff just on a very small scale, but still just paranoid because I have 4 plants in my closet that God created, you know?
So I did the exact same thing. I was probably 20, maybe years old, and I actually ordered all of the stuff I needed from Canada.
Yeah.
And I had it shipped to my P.O. box, and I had 3 or 4 plants in a closet. I had the closet lined with aluminum foil.
Yeah.
And I had lights on pulleys, and I had all this shit rigged up. And my mom came to my house and was visiting me, and she walked back into she went back to the bedroom.
These are some smelly tomatoes.
Well,
These tomatoes smell like skunks.
She knew what it was, trust me. No, she was going into a bathroom in the hallway, and she saw what looked like, so the door was closed to this room. But even with all the doors closed and everything, the light that was emitting from this room, it looked like It looked like Close Encounters
Yeah.
of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
So my mom's in the hallway and she sees this light emitting around the door cracks
Yeah.
to the bedroom door. And she's like, what in the hell are you doing in there? Like, she knew what I was doing.
Sure.
She knew exactly what I was doing. So I took it in there. I took her in there and I showed it to her. And she about had a stroke. And I think she said, this is 15 years. That's why I was agreeing with you when you said
Yeah.
that. I had 3 or 4 plants. And she said, you will go to prison for 15 years.
First offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's terrifying. It's so terrifying. It's just crazy. I complain all the time because, obviously I'm not that conservative or right wing or Republican as a good Oklahoma boy should be, apparently. But crap, I forgot where I was going to go with that. I started laughing at the political side of that. I forgot what I was going to say. Dang it. What was I going to say, man? Read my mind real quick.
I don't know, man. You're not a conservative and you started laughing.
Oh, no. Oh, I was going to say, Oklahoma, you mentioned earlier, was probably the most conservative state in the entire country. But I think we have the greatest medical marijuana program in the entire country. I think a lot of states could learn from us in that. That's what I was going to say. It's so cool because it's extremely liberal and it's extremely conservative at the same time. It's liberal in the sense that anybody can go get a card. It's not just for rich people or for whatever. You got $100, you can go get a card. Weed is more expensive than $100. That's another thing we're going to talk about in a second. Remind me of that, about the cost of getting a license. Remind me of that when we're done with this.
Yeah.
Anybody can get it. It's non-discriminatory, and you're not going to get in trouble. We have the best laws with that in terms of ease of getting a card, access, and pricing. We're at a perfect medium to where the businesses are able to make a profit and the customers are able to afford what they're buying. And that's great. That's where all the other states have messed up. Now, I'll go back. I remembered. So I mentioned that it costs $100 to get your card. Okay. Quite often, I'll have people text me, call me, say, hey, will you pick this up for me? Will you grab this for me? Or they'll just say, no, I'll just get it from my wife. They got a card. Or I'll get it from my friend. They have a card. You are an asshole if you do that. You are a selfish prick if you do that, because the whole purpose of implementing this medical marijuana program was to be able to smoke weed without going to jail. So these people have done what they were supposed to do. They went out and voted. We advocated for years. Do you know how many petitions it took and how much effort it took to actually get it voted on? I mean, just to get it to that point, Oklahoma was not expecting this. There was a huge grassroots effort behind this. So many people sacrificed so much for it. And basically, you're sitting here and you're too lazy or you're too scared of what somebody's going to think of you. And you're asking people to go, you are a hypocrite, you're lazy, and you're selfish because you're asking someone who has done everything the right way to break the law for you. And I've said this to so many people's face who's asked me to get stuff for them, and they just kind of bring their head down like, that is a pretty good point. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's a shitty thing to do.
It's so easy.
It never occurred to me that people were doing that, but I did help a friend get a card.
Yeah.
Because they had never smoked pot their whole life. They had never tried it. They had a medical problem, and they knew that I had smoked it when I was young, and I was telling them all about it. I did a lot of research on marijuana when all this was passing because I was thinking about getting into the business myself, becoming a grower. But I did. I kind of walked a friend of mine through it. I even drove them to Oklahoma City to get a license, but this was really early when you had to go to Oklahoma City to get a license.
That's what I had to do.
And we walked in, asked 2 or 3 questions, bam, it was done just like that. It was super easy. So yeah, that's pretty shitty that someone can't just go get a license. It's from my experience, I wasn't the one getting the license, but I was sitting there. It's about the easiest thing you can get.
And it's the same people who are on Facebook saying, well, if you just follow the law, you won't get, nothing bad will happen to you. If you just do what the cop says, then nothing bad will happen. If you just lick their boots, then nothing bad will happen to you. Yet they're the people that don't want to wear a mask when they go into Walmart, a private business who makes their own rules. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They're the same people that don't want to do anything if it inconveniences them. It's just those same people. And I just wish they'd take a step back and say, look how hypocritical you are, because everybody smokes weed or would if they could. Or, not everybody, literally, but most people do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have voted it in.
Yeah, definitely a vast majority of people, and the hypocritical part of it. Everybody is hypocritical when something serves them or aligns with their confirmation bias. I've learned that over the years, and I know that you've asked me, like, why do you argue with people? I don't know if you've noticed, but I've kind of stopped recently.
You have slowed down quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was probably because you were putting that energy towards things like this.
I have put some of that energy towards things like this, but I get just exhausted trying to talk to people. And
It exhausts me, and I'm not even the one posting it, Matt.
yeah.
That's why I was just so amused because, I mean, you're older than me. How old are you, by the way?
46.
You're 46. So a lot of the people your age, they're a lot more backwards thinking than people my age, even though it's a 15-year gap, which isn't much, but a lot of progress has been made between that generation X and my generation, you have a lot of guts to go on Facebook, especially somebody in a position that you are in an oil field company, you know what I mean, to have strong opinions like you do. I mean, people are extremely judgmental in that business. And if somebody saw your Facebook page and said, well, I don't like the way his politics are, they could fire you.
Yeah.
Because they can fire you for whatever petty reason they want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got a lot of guts.
Well, I happen to work for a European oil company.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that a lot of my beliefs align with the company I work for.
Right.
So regardless of the people I work with, if it aligns with them or not. And where I work, we all really respect each other's opinions.
Yeah.
We don't care. And it's actually pretty diverse. Where I work, there's people that fall on both sides. And so it's not a typical oil field workplace where I'm at. It's more diverse. There's more women. There's more minorities, and there's more differing views. Because the big thing where I work is the belief that conflict creates better results and better production.
Sure.
And
that's how muscles are built.
Yeah, that's
tear
exactly
them and build them back up. That's how muscles are built,
And that's why we are so good at what we do where I work, because they inject conflict into the workplace constantly to get those results. So I'm not too concerned about that.
You see, I have to stay extremely conscious about that, where I work. And it's nothing against, the owner of where I work at Paragon Communications, but, those guys are straight ticket Republican conservative people. We run Fox News on our station. Mm-hmm. It's no secret that Fox News is a conservative biased news network. You know what I mean? And they'll admit it themselves that they are conservative biased. Obviously I don't align with almost anything, that they talk about on the oil and gas show. On anytime politics come up, pretty much I have to be kind of quiet and reserve myself. Or there's a good chance I'm going to get a text message that says, hey, you might want to chill out for a little bit. It creates good entertainment once in a while. Yeah. But if you do too much of it, people genuinely get mad at you. Yeah. They genuinely do.
Oh yeah.
Fortunately, Chad's really good at evening out. Whatever I give, he kind of evens it out, and it makes it not sound so bad, and vice versa. When we do that, we have a kind of good dynamic with that. But dude, when I first started, I was like you on Facebook 2 months ago, man, and I just didn't learn my lesson. It took me quite a while to learn my lesson, but I was taking that stuff to heart, man. Like, just for expressing my view, which is the popular view around the world. That's what gets me at work, is that the people who are extremely conservative at my work, they think that most people in the world think like they do. That's just not true.
No, it's not.
Most people in the world are progressive. Most first world countries have free health care. They have a lot of the things that we're still waiting on. You know what I mean? It's just not true. And you look at the popular vote in the last three elections. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? People, whether Democrat or Republican, they are in general more progressive thinking. Whether you consider yourself a conservative or a liberal, in general, even the conservative people are more progressive towards, moral things. Mm-hmm. Not so much fiscal things, but morally, yes.
Yeah.
So the division's weird, dude. Two-party system ain't helping it much. I don't know how we got from marijuana to this.
Well, it was just the natural flow of conversation, man.
Well, it was kind of about how it's weird that we have the most liberal and most conservative medical marijuana program in Oklahoma. It's funny just how it fits. I think that's how we got into that road, and then talking about bias.
Honestly, man, I think the division is I think it's pretty clear why we're divided, and it's because there's media outlets that cater to groups, and that's the only thing people see is what fulfills their biases. And I know most of my friends are extremely conservative, and they're all great people, and they're not judgmental of me. I'm actually, if this was 40 years ago, like if right now I was living in 1980, I would probably be like the most hardcore conservative around. But since it's 2020, I'm considered like this moderate or left center.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense to me. Like why is everybody labeled? Why can't they just believe what they believe? Why do I have to believe what you believe?
Yeah.
Why can't we believe what the scientist says? Why are masks politicized? Like the most simple things. We look at countries, and I guess we're going to jump right into COVID apparently, but we look at countries around the world that, yes, they still have it, but I think it came up on the debate last night or in some other place. Like there's countries where it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Because they didn't politicize it.
True.
They said, you know what? We need to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And there's people that believe that masks don't work. I'm not a scientist, but when I see entire countries that have 1% of the cases we have per capita and they're all wearing masks, then I must think that it must be the mask.
Yeah.
Because it's not the weather, it's not the amount of rain. Like it's the mask, obviously stupid. So I don't understand people's unwillingness to harm others because of their insecurities about a mask. And that's what it really is insecurity about a mask. They, someone says they're trying to control me. I'm like, to what end? What are they going to get out of you wearing a mask other than we don't spend more tax dollars on people dying in ICU units? Like, what exactly are they trying to control? And it's, this is the first step. And then they move to the next thing where they want to control you. And I'm like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
You watched Plandemic and it fit your narrative and you loved it so much that you went 100% on it. That's exactly what happened. I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get to actual truth. It really is. It's so hard because who is the source?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People always say this, a reliable source is whatever.org or you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you're the same person who's saying that the government is the source of all conspiracy.
Yeah.
So you're never going to reach an agreement whenever you can't even agree on what a viable source for information is. So we have muddied facts so much that they don't even exist anymore. Yeah, the facts are out there, but they're now subjective because of the internet.
Yeah.
And because of the empowering of dumb people.
Yeah. Yeah. And people say, well, we're all going to get it eventually. What difference does it make? It makes a huge difference to me because if you told me I'm definitely going to get it, then you know what? I want to get it 6 months from now, or I want to get it a year from now when we're better at treating it, when I know I'll have a better result because we're learning more about it. And that's been proven since it started. The mortality rate, the death rate is dropping because we're getting better at treating it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do understand that I'm probably going to get it. I may have already gotten it, don't even know it. I could have been asymptomatic. Right?
Yeah.
But I want to hold that off as long as possible because that is the best result for 46-year-old Matt, right?
Yeah.
So, and then people just don't get that. They just assume get it right now.
Yeah.
I would not recommend getting it right now.
Yeah.
I would rather get it in 6 months from now when we're better at treating it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm kind of a nihilist and maybe a bit further than that. I feel like humans are the virus. I feel like it's, the earth has been here for life on this planet's been here for over 4 billion years, and humans have been here, for 250,000, which is nothing. And then we've only had, industrial progress in the last 100. You know what I mean? So this is not even a blink of an eye. This isn't even a grain of sand on all the beaches put together in the world. You know, just we are so insignificant in the grand scheme of it all that it's hard for me to even get into American politics. I think more globally or universally, you know, what's better for the universe? What's better for the globe? You know, I don't think what's better for Oklahoma or what's better for the United States, because honestly, I think the greatest thing that could happen is for half of our world population to just die overnight. And I know that's terrible to say, but I think that would be a noble sacrifice.
That's pretty harsh, bro.
I think if 4 or 5 billion people died overnight, it would solve. I mean, what problem would it not solve?
It would solve.
You wouldn't have many places to put the bodies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know what would be the outcome of that. I wonder if half the people died overnight, would there be more of a greenhouse? Would there be more of a carbon effect?
The
from
environment
that?
would benefit amazingly.
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Well, and then you talk about that, then cattle. You know, the amount of food that we're having to produce, the amount of cattle that's on this face of the earth would dwindle down. Like, yeah, the carbon footprint would be so much smaller. That's the kind of stuff I care about, and that's something that nobody else I know around here actually cares about. You know, to me, climate change is not. That's my biggest issue is climate change, and I haven't even been able to have that discussion with anybody in years because everybody here. They revolve around the oil field, and to them, the oil field cannot be bad in any way, shape, or form because that's where they work.
Yeah.
So it will never go away. It can't because they work there. So it'll never go away because they work there. So it can't because things have to work out for you because it's you. You know, and bad things aren't supposed to happen to you because it's you.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I got news for the oil and gas people. They may not believe in climate change, but the companies they work for do.
Yeah.
And they are shifting dramatically towards renewable energies, and they are investing tons of money. The things that I'm doing in the oil field right now are nothing like we've ever seen. All the equipment on my location is electric. Like, we are working very quickly and actively towards being a net zero carbon company at one of the largest oil field companies in the oil exploration companies in the world, and all of the big companies are doing it.
Yeah.
All of them are doing it. And the workers, they can either get on board or they can get off board.
Exactly.
Because that is exactly where it's going, because the oil companies that have the majors, the big international oil companies, they see it, they understand it. They're a business. They're in the business of making money. They don't care about who's right or wrong.
Innovate or evacuate.
Right.
That's how it is.
And you know, BP has come out and said, you know, within 10 years, we're going to be 100% renewable energy. The company I work for has come out and said within 10 or 15 years, we're going to be a net zero carbon producer. And we're already doing all those things to make it happen. We have wind and solar running our locations. So we're integrating all that together, because the fact of the matter is we cannot, at this point, do without oil.
Sure.
A lot of people don't understand.
Petroleum products are 100% necessary.
That plastics are the largest consumer of oil.
Sure.
It's not cars. It's not trains. The plastics industry uses more oil than any other industry in the world.
And deforestation is the number one cause of climate change. It's not. It's not carbon emissions. It's deforestation.
Yeah.
You know, you don't hear a lot of people talk about that.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, you know, when we get into Joe Biden, a lot of people think, well, he just wants to do away with the oil industry. The goal isn't to do away with an industry.
No, he doesn't.
The goal is to balance out the carbon emissions.
Yeah.
And as long as we balance it out, whether it's by planting more trees, using greener equipment on oil field locations, we still have to extract the oil, and we can do it in a clean way.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I hate to even bring up the word clean coal because I don't think it exists, but you can actually have, as far as emissions are concerned, you can have a much cleaner oil.
Yeah.
And you can plant trees and you can do all those other things that help. So
you don't know this, but I also come from a coal family. Mm-hmm. So my mom's side of the family, they're all iron workers. They built power plants their entire life that burn on coal. Now that's switched. Yeah. Now all the iron workers in my family are building power plants that run on what?
Natural gas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So wake up, people. Wake up. It doesn't matter what you think. You got to either innovate or evacuate.
Yeah.
It's just is what it is. I already know it. Like, we were the company's NextEra, and who's the other big wind company?
Man, I'm not sure.
You know, I've been talking to people that work out there. They are doubling down year after year. They are doubling down, man. Get into that industry while you can. And from what I hear, those are great industries to work in.
Well, you don't have to worry about the ups and downs of the market. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If you're working on windmills,
Which, you know, I used to be such a hater of the oil and gas industry while I was working in it. My mentality when I was working in the oil field was, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to do hippie, progressive left-wing hippie things with it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm going to work that job and get their money, and I'm going to do progressive thing. You know what I'm saying? It was my way to fight the oil field, was to join them, infiltrate, and then use the money, against them. Like, I could take on
you infiltrated the oil field.
Yeah, I could take on $1 trillion industry. Yeah. Which, if you asked me 10 years ago, who was the biggest enemy to humanity, I would have said the energy industry. Mm-hmm. Now, I think the technology industry might not be responsible for everything that's wrong right now, but they have the power to fix it, and they're not. And that really, really bothers me, because these are supposed to be the people who are forward thinking. And that really scares me that you have people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk who are doing progressive things in terms of energy and things like that, but they're still putting profit in front of everything. And that scares me. Yeah. You're talking a handful of people in America who could end world hunger at the blink of an eye, and they don't. And that terrifies me, because if these people aren't going to do it, who will? Because it is eventually going to come down to that. Somebody is going to have to step up, because there's only 4 or 5 people left who have the money.
Right.
Somebody is going to have to step up and say, you know what? I can't spend trillions of dollars when I'm dead.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to step up. Go back to Joe Biden. His climate plan is way too weak. 30 years is too long. His plan is to become carbon neutral by 2050. It needs to be done by 2030.
Yeah.
He is 20 years too late on that deal.
Yeah, and his plan is actually less aggressive than most of the oil companies' plans.
It's weak. The because he takes oil money.
Yeah. But the companies themselves are more aggressive at the net carbon target. They're following the Paris Accord, the Paris Climate Agreement.
And this creates jobs.
Yeah.
Keeping emissions at check, testing emissions, making sure things are working safely, and creating environmental regulations. That also creates jobs. That's another avenue for you to go do. You won't have to throw tongs. Just do something else.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people. The oil field is not going to go away. It's just not.
It's just going to change.
And it's going to change, and the oil companies are so far ahead of all the governments on this, because believe it or not, people that run multinational oil companies are a lot smarter than politicians.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody's figured that out, but they really are. Getting to the technology side, if you look at it, for many, many decades, oil and energy companies were polluting the planet. And a lot of us didn't know it was going on at the time. It's just like, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, everybody smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
We didn't realize how bad it was. We were lied to by the tobacco companies. But even with that, we didn't care. We still smoked cigarettes, right? But so for decades, we were polluting the environment, and we weren't quite sure. We weren't quite clear of how bad we were doing it. We thought, well, it's the whole world. It's Earth. Like, she'll shake us off like dogs shake off fleas if we get too bad. But the thing about technology, at this point, at least oil companies recognize what's going on and are trying to turn the corner and fix it, right? Technology companies have known and planned from the beginning that they're polluting people's minds, and it was part of their goal. So, energy companies have polluted the planet, but these companies are polluting people's brains.
Oh, for sure.
And they did it intentionally from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
On purpose. And that is a huge piece of the pie as to the division in this country and around the world right now.
I mean, but you really look, compared to what we used to produce, 70s, 80s, and 90s, post 9/11, when Dick Cheney finally got in there and did what he did, that's when it really, really took off. I mean, how much did we produce between 2001 and 2015? It had to have been 10 times as much as we had done in all the time before. It had to have been. With as much fracking as we did, I mean, you're basically giving these wells steroids. You know what I'm saying? I want it now. I want all of it right now, That has to, and how do you even go over that data? Because you have an entire century where you're doing things one way at a certain rate, and then all of a sudden you 10x Grant Cardone that production.
Yep.
I mean, how do you even measure that? We don't have enough. Your life isn't long enough to be able to actually measure all the effects from that. So it's taking us too long to even figure out our time frame on this. You know, every year it's we think now that we have until this time. Oh wait, we think now that time's already passed. Wait, hold on, we forgot about this. Maybe we do have 10 years. You know, it's hard to pinpoint how much time we have with all the uncertainty. If there's any doubt, you should probably just move ahead to what you know for sure is going to be okay. Yeah. So what's the first step?
So I can take a shot at, if you're talking about how much we've polluted with new production.
Yeah.
So I actually believe we probably polluted a lot more when we had less production than we do now. And I know that's going to sound completely backwards.
No.
But let me kind of break this down for you. When I started in the oil and gas industry, I started on a drilling rig, and we would drill a well, and it would take 6 to 8 months to drill that well. And that rig would be sitting on that hole for 6 to 8 months. That same rig can come in there right now and drill a well twice as deep in about 15 days.
Yeah.
So just the exposure right there is less. Now, the amount of oil that it produces is much greater. So how much does that offset that? I don't know. But from a perspective of how much pollution are we creating at the well site?
Yeah.
Right now, it's less than it used to be. And we used to import just as much oil. So we were still always using however much oil we needed, right? We were either importing or making it here.
Sure.
So my guess is at the site, we're actually polluting a lot less than we used to.
Yeah.
If I don't know how long it's been since you've been to an oil field location. I don't know if you've ever been on a frack location.
Oh, yeah.
But if you came out to my location, you would not hardly recognize anything out there. We would be sitting there fracking and you wouldn't even know it. Because
really?
It is quiet as a mouse out there because all of the equipment is electric.
Yeah.
It's all electric engines. There's no emissions. Like, it would blow your mind if you saw this stuff. So it blows my mind, and I'm out there seeing it every day. So the advances in technology, I think, are really going to help the goals there. So
how misleading? Because there's other factors that you got to put in here too. So how misleading is the price of a barrel of oil? So people's like, man, we need $180 barrel oil. We need $100 barrel oil. Well, after these last couple downturns we've had over the decade, they figure out, because that's what good companies do, how to innovate, do it cheaper, do it faster, do it better, do it more efficiently. So, and also you're doing it, you're not paying people the same amount. Yeah. So how much does that dollar per barrel amount, like how much does that actually matter now? And what is the sweet spot? Because say in 2005, compare now to 2005 when oil was like $80 a barrel or whatever. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What is the oil field is good now? What is a good price for a barrel of oil that means that people have jobs? It's good.
So that is not a question that can be answered, and I'll tell you why. People talk about...
And that's why I asked it.
People talk about break-even prices all the time. There is no fucking break-even price. It does not exist. Every company has different amount of expenses. Their contracts are different. What they purchased, what they paid for the land, how their whole business is run is differently. So there is no one break-even price.
So why is everybody so concerned with the exact price of oil? They sit there and watch it like it's up $1.
Yeah.
It's up another $1. Like, why are they so concerned with that?
Because there is a price that even the worst companies can operate under.
Yeah.
And typically that break-even price that you hear about, that's the price that the shittiest oil company in the world that is terrible at what they do, that spend way too much money, that's where they break even.
Right.
The really good oil companies break even a lot lower than that. So it all depends on what you paid for your land, what it cost you. I can tell you right now I can't tell you what we're paying for services, but it's less than 10% of what we were paying for the same services 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're drilling and completing wells for easily 25% of the cost we used to. Now that
at a tenth of the amount of time.
At a tenth the amount of time. And so that really drives down. So our break-even price versus Brand X's break-even price versus this company's, it's all going to be different.
Right.
Every company's is going to be different. There's companies out there that can break even at $10 a barrel.
Yeah.
There's companies out there that really need it to be $42 a barrel. That's usually where people say that break-even price is. That's for the people that paid way too much for their acreage and pay way too much for their services because they're not a glamorous company to work for.
Right.
So when you work, this is another piece of information. So when you work for a major oil company, let's say you're a service company and you're fixing to drop an IPO.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? You want to work for the biggest oil company in the world.
Yeah.
You want that on your chart. You want that on your paper. You want to be able to say, you know what? I work for ExxonMobil.
Yeah.
And they will work for those companies for nothing, just so they can get that IPO
Right.
and make billions of dollars
Yes.
on the IPO. And that happens every single day. So the majors are getting these services a lot cheaper than your mom and pop oil companies. The mom and pop oil companies are really paying out the ass for the same thing that we're paying pennies for.
And why is this company worth this much money? Because Exxon says so.
Because it's just like branding, right? It's just like the Trump brand. You have the Trump brand that's worth so much money. Well, these huge oil companies, they have their brand that's worth so much money. And all of the little service companies and all, they all want to work for them. Because if you work for that company, then that means
This
you're
is
good.
why Wall Street makes no sense. It's all clout. That it has nothing to do with reality, and it's just all clout.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. Like, how is this what we base everything on? I don't understand it. This seems like the most volatile thing in the world.
Oil?
No, just Wall Street in general,
Oh,
just economics in general. Like, that seems like a crazy way to do it.
There is so
It's
much
just
shit.
like the credit system. It's like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man.
Credit is a scam. Credit's a total scam.
I know, but that's where growth comes from, is by the promise. It's by borrowing money and promising to pay it back. That's where money is created. Mm-hmm. Is from IOUs.
Yes.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make sense. I understand, but you're taking an IOU. I promise to pay you back with interest as the word, when the reality is you're not going to get that money back.
Yeah.
You're going to loan that money and they're going to end up defaulting, and you'll get some of it back.
Yeah. And they're betting that you will default.
Right.
Because they make more money when you
Exactly. That seems like the opposite way you should be doing things. It seems like you should want to loan money to people, who can pay you back and who can, but no, it's more profitable if you loan money to someone who can't pay you back.
Yeah. Here's what a mortgage lender wants. They want to give you a mortgage for a $100,000 house, and they want you to pay that house down to $25,000, and then they want you to default on it so they get the house back, and then they
do it all over
and
again.
then they can sell it at the appreciated value 10 years later. Now it's a $200,000 house. So that's where they make their money. And don't even get started on the credit. So I don't know if
takes you years to build it, takes you weeks to lose it.
So credit reporting agencies, credit companies purposely depress everyone's credit, so they have to pay higher interest rates. They're totally in bed with the lenders.
Oh, for sure.
It is a total fucking scam.
Oh, for sure.
You can be a perfect payer. You can pay all your bills for years, and your credit score will just barely inch up, I don't even
and then stop, and then pay everything off and stop for a couple months, and you're back to zero after it took you years to get it up to where it was.
It's true. If you have, let's say you have a mortgage and you pay it off, I know because I went through this. You have a mortgage and you pay it off, temporarily your credit score goes up.
Yeah.
And then 6 months later, your credit score drops. And then you call and you're like trying to get a loan somewhere, and they're like, well, your credit score is this, it's gone down. Why did it go down? Because you don't have a mortgage. So basically what you're telling me is I have to keep borrowing and paying people money to sustain my credit.
And it makes me laugh because you've got and we're talking about Western Oklahoma here. You've got all these people whose head is up Dave Ramsey's ass. If you do what Dave Ramsey says, you are going to be in a terrible position that we are talking about right now.
Yeah.
Everything Dave Ramsey preaches is the opposite of what you are voting for politically. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah. And I I've learned a couple of tricks, and one of the tricks that I have different credit lines.
Yeah, you don't make the laws; you just play by the rules.
That's right. I have different credit lines for real estate businesses. Another thing I'm in, I never pay off any of those credit lines. I pay those fucking things down to $1, and I leave $1 on that, and that $1 is sitting there accruing interest. But you know what that $1 is doing? It's keeping
your credit running.
It's keeping that credit line open on my credit report. And it's maintaining my credit score.
Yep.
And
I'm doing the exact same thing.
When I learned that, it was like an aha moment.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
But Dave Ramsey says, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Nobody can do that. Look, and here's what I always say about Dave Ramsey. If you are not disciplined enough to be able to do that, then you're screwed in the first place, because the whole thing, you can sum up everything Dave Ramsey says with spend less than you take in. You need to increase your income and lower your outcome. Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, duh. You don't have to read a book and eat freaking bologna sandwiches for 10 years to figure out how to do that. Either you can do it or you can't. How selfish are you?
That's exactly right.
It's that simple.
The only thing that you should be paying off is your credit card. But
well, he says no credit cards under no circumstances. Buy your home. Yeah, no credit cards, but make sure you get a mortgage.
Yeah. My advice to people was,
well, look, here's the thing. I don't trust the stock market anymore. I don't trust, real estate. The stock market's good because real estate is always a 100%. It works. And you know what? I don't believe in retirement anymore. Yeah. I don't believe in mutual funds and that since the stock market's gone up for the last 100 years, generally, it's going to keep doing that. I don't think so. I look at American capitalism as a game of poker. And at the end of the table, at the final table, you've got 8 people who are still in the game with everybody's money. You can't restart the game. You can't get back into the game until somebody wins and everybody else loses and you start over again. Yeah. And that's what happens in history over and over and over and over again. And that's how civilizations are built. At some point or another, we're going to have to shuffle up and deal again.
Yep.
How are we going to distribute the wealth, the poker chips again? And how do you buy in? How do you buy back in? How do you fix this? Because the American game of capitalist poker is over. 3 people have all the money.
Yeah.
How do you create the middle class again? How do you get oil field workers their jobs or different jobs? Or how do we balance 500 million people in one country?
No, you're exactly right. I've used the same analogy when having this conversation with other people. The game Monopoly is based on a capitalist system, right? What happens at the end of the game of Monopoly? There's one person with all the money. That is exactly what's going to happen at the end of what we're doing right now.
In fact, it has to happen.
Yeah, it has to happen. There is no way getting around that.
And in order for you to get on top, somebody else has to go down, because there's only so much of hard goods that can back the money that you apparently have. You can say, yeah, I owe you, but when everything hits the fan, those IOUs are worth nothing. So what do we do, Matt? You're the smartest person I know. So what do we do? When does this game of poker end? Like, I'm all for capitalism, but when it's completely unregulated, once you obtain a certain amount of wealth, you can't lose.
Yeah. So let's look at it this way. A few years ago, a lot of conservatives started saying, this is not a democracy. Have you noticed that?
I don't care.
This is not
it's a republic. I don't care. It's a constitutional republic.
A pure democracy is evil. Like, quit saying this country
Quit saying democracy, because I don't like Democrats, so I don't like the word democracy. It's a republic.
Well, what they're missing is that a pure democracy is bad. A pure capitalist system is the exact same thing as a pure democracy. If it's pure capitalism, one person wins at the end.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
There is no share the wealth, right? There is no, all the opportunities eventually fade away. And I don't think it's going to be someone like Jeff Bezos. In 10 years, there's going to be somebody that has 10 times more money than fucking Jeff Bezos. And we're going to be looking at that guy thinking, holy shit. But no, something is going to have to change. That doesn't mean I'm promoting socialism, but that means there has to be limits on how much of a footprint we allow corporations to hold over this country, right? So we're getting back to that. What was the movie? Was it 1984 where the companies owned, the corporations were controlling the world? Or was that a different movie? I don't know. But we're getting to a point where 2 or 3 corporations actually own everything.
Yeah.
And even though there's thousands of corporations out there, what people don't understand is that there's 2 or 3 corporations that own all those corporations.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Have you seen that map, that graphic that shows?
Yes.
The first time I saw that, it blew my mind. It kind of freaked me out.
And then you start looking and you see that these 3 or 4 companies, they are the ones that give political money to both sides.
Yes.
So the game is automatically rigged. And I don't understand how that's not the first thing people say, oh, well, that's where it's wrong. But every single person around this area, and I don't mean to talk trash on people, I just don't understand how people can't see that it's easy to predict what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen is whatever is best for the people with the most money. What do you mean? Yeah. That is what's going to happen. Yeah. All you have to, it's not even hard to look. You don't have to get online and look at conspiracy stuff. All you have to do is just look at who made the most money this year. Look at who made the most money the year before. That's all you have to do. And then look at who that person donated money to. Yeah. It's so blatantly obvious that if you're the richest person in the world and you're giving money to both political candidates that are running for office, obviously it's rigged.
You're buying power.
I mean, obviously. So we sit here and waste all this time arguing over stupid Democrat versus Republican, left versus right crap. They don't care about abortion. No. They don't care about you being hungry. They don't care about gay rights. They don't care about any of that. Nothing moral. They don't care. They don't care about Christianity. All these politicians that are sitting here, I'm a Christian and I go to, they don't care about that. No. They use this stuff as a distraction. They use this in God we trust, 4th of July, fireworks, patriotism, Uncle Sam. They use this as a distraction to make the people with the most money get more money. And in return, they get money because they show up into Washington, D.C. and realize, oh my God, there really is not a single thing me or my entire political party could do to make any progress whatsoever. While I'm here for 2 or 3 years, might as well pad my pockets. Yeah. I'd do the exact same thing.
I would too. Absolutely.
I would do the exact same thing. At least I'm going to get something out of it. And to me, that's just blatantly obvious.
I've had more than one person contact me, message me, and say, have you ever thought about running for office? Blah blah. And I always tell them the same thing.
Nobody would vote for you.
First of all,
not in this state.
I would have to re-register. I would have to change from being an independent to being a Republican to win in this.
Exactly.
State. That would be the first thing. But the second thing, as soon as my ass got to Washington, I know Matt Randolph very well. I've lived in this body my whole life. It wouldn't take me long to get turned when I went up there.
For sure.
The first time someone offered me $1 million to vote some certain way, I would take that fucking $1 million and I wouldn't give a shit because everybody else is doing it too. And this one person can't change it, right?
Look at Joe Biden. He's been there for 50 freaking years. He's been in Congress. And what has he done?
Yeah, exactly.
He has done not one thing. Mm-hmm. If you can't do something in 50 years, how is somebody who just gets newly elected? They say change this at the polls. Dude, I hate to be that guy. I'm done voting. I seriously am. It makes no sense to vote. It doesn't matter. If a popular vote can't win an election, it's rigged.
Yeah.
It can't be any more black and white. Hey, everybody that is a citizen of the United States, vote. And the most votes win. It should be that simple.
Yeah.
Of course, there are people that think differently in every town all over the world. The Electoral College doesn't make any sense. It is not relevant. Not in a world where we are instantly connected. Everybody has internet. Everybody has cell phones. I don't care where you live in America, where it's rural. You've still got a cell phone. You've still got the internet.
That's right.
That's a thing now. So we are instantly connected. There is no reason that you can come up with the Electoral College that you can't come up with a good reason that's original. Yeah. It's something that you haven't heard them say on Fox News, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. If that's the case, why was Donald Trump talking shit on the Electoral College before he won?
Yeah.
He was blaming, he thought he was, but now it's good. Now the Electoral College is good, but it just makes no sense. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And I hear the argument of, do we want 10 million people in New York deciding an election? And to me, I don't care where they live. Should 5 people in North Dakota have the same voting power as 5 million people in New York?
Well, tell me this. So, should Florida, Iowa, and Ohio decide everything in this country?
That's exactly
because
right.
You're sitting here trying to say this. Well, Florida, Ohio, and Iowa determine everything.
Yeah, and Pennsylvania now.
Everything.
Yeah.
So 4 of 50 states determine what we're going to do, no matter what the popular vote turns out, no matter if you have millions of more votes.
Mm-hmm. And the reason those states decide, though, is because all of the other states are so cemented into their positions.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Oklahoma's always going to vote Republican. It's only the states that they can flip that decide.
Sure.
So it's actually a good thing that we have states that go back and forth. It's a bad thing that the good thing makes it bad because now we only have 4 states that are deciding the election, if that makes any sense.
Exactly.
In a perfect world, we would have 50 states
Yeah.
that flip back and forth.
Yeah.
In a perfect year, in a perfect world, one election year, Texas might vote Democrat.
That's exactly what I was getting ready to say next.
Yeah.
It could, because Texas it's purple already. It's about to be a swing state.
It is.
Several reasons.
Yeah.
For one, obviously the immigrant vote is there. Number 2, the mass exodus in California. People are fleeing California and just humming it over to Texas. And it's funny that they're mass exodusing California, but they're going to go to Texas and they're going to turn it into They're going to try to turn it into California. I don't think they'll be that successful with it.
Yeah.
But look, if the Republicans lose Texas,
they'll never win another election.
well, that's when civil war will happen, because there will be no other way for them to win an election.
Yeah.
They can have Florida. You can take Florida. You can have it.
Yeah.
You had it when George Bush got elected. You can have Florida. If the Democrats get Texas, you guys will never win another election ever again, ever. And then something extreme is going to happen. I'm more afraid of that than Donald Trump being elected president for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. And another thing, back to the pot and how it intersects with the politics and the pot, a lot of Californians are moving into Oklahoma.
Yeah.
A lot of people are moving into Oklahoma and buying up property to start pot businesses.
Yep. And they're the ones that are the best at it.
Yeah.
Without these out-of-state guys, and I'm sorry, this isn't a knock to Oklahoma home growers, but the California and the Colorado peeps, they are just better at it. They got more money. They've done it longer. They know what they're doing. Without them, it wouldn't have got lifted off like it has been. Now, I will say there are lots of people who are getting really good at it. They're really learning their craft. They're really coming into it, and they are. But without those out-of-state people, we wouldn't have had what we have now.
Yeah, and they're bringing cash, and they're paying premium for land in western Oklahoma, which hasn't gone up in value in my entire lifetime.
Right.
But I am closely tied in with the real estate business here in western Oklahoma, and these people are bringing cash offers almost daily to buy up property around western Oklahoma.
Why wouldn't you?
And they're paying a premium. Like, how much do they want for it? Like, they don't care, you know. And they're spending a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Which is really going to help our economy.
And it has.
But
It has tremendously.
Yeah. People don't realize how much it's helped our economy. I see it, but a lot of people don't see it. So yeah, does that mean Oklahoma will ever turn what color Democrat? Blue?
Yeah.
Does that
No. I honestly don't care.
Yeah.
I honestly don't care. To me, because like we talked about starting off the show, living in Oklahoma, I've got my job and I can smoke pot. As long as I got that, I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'll live around right-wing fascists my whole life. I don't care. As long as I can smoke weed and I can be left alone, I'm all right, man.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you need people from the right wing and you need people from the left wing. Like,
absolutely.
And you need them to come together, and that's what really makes America great. It's not, we're going to follow all of the right wing ideals. It's those two groups coming together and compromising and understanding like they used to do back in the day. That's what makes America great. And I don't, anybody can disagree with that. I really don't care. Of course, you know me. You know I don't care if people disagree with me.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. I get more butthurt than I used to, just because I'm just emotionally exhausted from it, man. Because I don't get offended very easily. It's just that. And I always try to watch myself, because I have an affinity to make fun of right wingers more than left wingers, just because I'm surrounded by right wingers. I can only make fun of what I see. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I see. If I saw Democrats all day being just as extra, I'd be making fun of them. But the thing is, there are none. I have none to make fun of. So I mean, except for myself, and I do make fun of myself. I make fun of myself all the time.
Yeah.
But we have so much more in common with each other than we have apart. Mm-hmm. Yet the division is so crazy, to the point where I get on Facebook and I see somebody that I've known my whole life, and they will just blatantly say, if you're a Democrat, you are stupid.
Yeah.
Like, just because you have a D next to your name or an R next to your name, that automatically makes you stupid.
Yeah.
And that bothers me tremendously.
That's when Matt responds.
Like, that bothers me tremendously whenever you blame everything that you despise in your life. You are extremely passionate. Your hatred is passionate, and it's it's just Democrats.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a registered Democrat. Does that mean that that's how you feel about me?
Yeah.
Even though everything we've been through, the moments we've shared together, the kisses, the walks on the beach, all that stuff, you're going to throw that out of the window just because my political affiliation.
That's right.
You are an idiot. You're a pedophile because you're a Democrat.
Yeah, that's done. You're done.
You're a pedophile, man.
Smoked.
You know?
Oh, that is great.
You're an Antifa because you're a Democrat, you know?
I'm an independent.
You're a baby murderer because you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
You know? That's just, it's so ridiculous for anyone on either side to say, this is your level of intelligence because of your political party. No, everybody has their own reasons for being in a certain party. It depends on what your priorities are.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I believe. I believe, and I'm fairly confident I'm right on this. I believe that what we hear from the right, that maybe about 20% of the people on the right actually believe that shit.
Yeah.
And the rest of them just don't speak up, right?
Yeah, I know that yeah.
And it's the same way on the left. You hear this crazy shit from the left, and there's a small percentage of people on the left that actually believe it. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease, as always, and there's 80% of us in the middle that either lean one way or the other, but could go either way or the other and don't give a shit about the dumbasses on each side.
Yeah.
And the where I get in trouble is I like to poke the bear. I like to antagonize people and stir the pot, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And I usually I don't think I've only had one person unfriend me that I know of on Facebook. And that was because that was over I made a comment that in real life people need to struggle. It creates character. Like when you're young, you need to struggle. Like life should not be a breeze, right? In a perfect world, yes, it's a breeze. But if you look at the most successful people.
But what if we have the ability for it to be a breeze for everybody?
But what do you so this was my point. You take wealthy kids, right? Where life is a breeze for them. What happens to them when they become adults, right? Does anything good? Like, do they have the character? Like, I'm not talking about struggle where you want to blow your head off. I'm talking about people need to go through hard times. Life is hard as it is, and it should not be a breeze, because if it is a breeze, when you get older and you have to face conflict and you have to solve problems, you're going to be fucked because you're not going to be able to handle it, right? That's what I mean. I don't mean people should be starving. I don't mean people should be homeless. They should have to work hard for what they achieve. That's what I mean by struggle. Working hard to achieve something.
I mean, everybody has something to offer. You know what I mean? Something to offer.
Yeah. And this person that unfriended me, she unfriended me because I said that. And I told her, I said, you are a perfect example. You're a single mother who went to college, got 2 degrees. You struggled. Look at where you are now. And her response was, fuck you. I unfriend you, blah, blah, blah. You know, and blew my mind because she literally lived the life that I was talking about. It's not that I wanted her to struggle, but she could not recognize that part of her struggle made her who she is now.
Yeah.
And had she not, maybe her struggle didn't have to be as bad as it was. I'm not saying that. But had she not gone through everything she went through, she wouldn't be at the point in her life she was at this moment. That was my whole point.
Yeah. But there's such a double-edged sword for that, you know, because you have the generation that has the struggle. They have the discipline. They have what it takes to create something in life. And what they want is to give their children what they didn't have as children.
Yeah.
So then they give that to those kids, and then those kids grow up to be the opposite of what their parents are.
Yeah, and they smack the shit out
and then we go back and forth on this seesaw of privilege and struggle, and privilege and struggle. And then every once in a while, someone will get real rich, and then it'll just be privilege from then on out. Some people like that. But who's in the right? Because I know a lot of people who go out there and spend months away in the oil field, away from their family. You know what I'm saying? They're sacrificing their relationship with their wives and their children to be out there. It's for money. It's to provide a quote unquote better life.
Mm-hmm. That's why I did it.
You know what I'm saying? Well, what if your kid doesn't appreciate that?
Well,
what if
sucks for him?
What if they end up depressed and the most miserable person on the planet? I mean, what is of actual worth?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. What is of actual worth?
I feel you, brother.
It's just no matter what we do, it's not going to be right.
Yeah.
If you okay, I want to give my kid everything I didn't have. Okay, so you're going to spoil him.
Right.
I'm going to work hard and go through the struggle to spoil my kids. And then I'm going to blame the generation that we spawned for everything.
Yeah. I think people think we're too hard on we got a 5-year-old and we work really hard at not spoiling him. Like I remodeled the garage last week and he's in there painting and taping, and this little kid could probably flip a house if he wanted to, because we flip houses, and he's always with us when we're working on houses. But it's just little things that we do. It probably drives his grandma crazy. Like, I don't let him use the ladder to get out of the pool. I make him climb out of the pool.
Nice.
Just so it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Just so he can build those. What are those muscles right there? What are
your lats?
Glutes, lats.
Yeah.
I don't work out. How the hell would I know? But like, I just do little things.
Don't maybe bring the noodles out, bro.
Well, I get up in the morning and be like, what are we going to do today, Dad? We're going to paint. So I go out in the garage and I paint like a big square on the wall, and I hand him a roller and I say, fill this square in, stuff like that. So I totally get what you mean. Kids are...
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, man.
Yeah,
the thing I'm most appreciative from my parents is the negative stuff, because that's what was more valuable to me was learning how to deal with certain things. I went from living like in Kentucky, the families live very communally. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the times you all live on a trailer house on the same 5 acres of land that's been in your family for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And that's kind of how it is out there. I went from being with my dad, seeing my dad every day, playing catch with my dad, helping my dad on the farm, being together all the time, where money didn't even matter. Like I said in the beginning of the show, my parents made a combined income of $300 a week. There's not much you can do on that, on $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do on that. So we made our life, based on the opposite of privilege, and then we come out here and all of a sudden my dad's making $200,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And now I'm living in an actual house, not a trailer. It's a $100,000 house, not this house. You know what I mean? But I think I am Richie rich now because I live in a house in a subdivision. You know what I mean?
It's all about where you come from.
But that was cool for a second. You know what I really missed? My dad. I didn't see him for my entire high school career, where I was becoming a man, and dealing with grown man emotions and relationships and stuff. So was that worth it?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think that was worth it at all. Do I think he thinks it was worth it? I don't know. Mm. So everybody. The reason I'm saying this is that it's so hard to understand life or the right way to live. So many people think they have the right way to live, or they know what you're supposed to do. But no matter what you do, there's always going to be an opposite and equal effect.
Yep.
No matter what. The bad comes with the good comes with the bad. Overcoming a struggle with somebody creates something positive. Doing it's everything has perfect balance.
Yep.
So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I think we should find what we have in common with each other and focus on that instead of money and not privilege, but comfort and material things.
Yeah.
That's what we should be judging people on. Is their real stuff, man.
Yeah,
can I survive a zombie apocalypse with this person? Could I have a conversation with this person if we and this person got locked in a jail cell together? If we got a life prison sentence, can we stick this out together? Yeah. That's the kind of stuff I care about. Camaraderie, brotherhood, conversations, the real stuff, not iWatches and iPhones and trampolines and Bissell vacuum cleaners, you know? Bitches be going crazy over them too.
Dude, I got a new phone last week. It's like I get a phone every 5 or 6 years. I didn't even know how to work this fucking thing.
Yeah.
But I needed a class on how to work it. But anyway, man, we're almost an hour and a half into this deal. So I think we're going to shut it down. I really appreciate you coming, being on the show.
Man, this is a blast. Thank you for bringing me on.
I love doing this stuff.
Sorry it's hard to focus on a topic whenever you're talking with me.
People have that same problem with me, so
I enjoyed it thoroughly. Hopefully your followers do as well.
Well, I think I have 2 or 3. I don't know. I just started the show, but I know.
One day you're gonna be looking back, and be like, one day me and Drew were sitting there talking across from each other. Now I'm talking to Howard Stern.
Yeah, I'll be hanging out with Rogan. I'll be like, Joe, I gotta check this out, man. I started this on a $200 laptop in my house.
Well, now that he lives in Texas, that could be a reality. You know, you might be able to go down there and meet with him.
He got away from California. He moved to Austin. I learned that listening to his show. But thanks again for coming. I really had a good time. We definitely need to do this again. You anything you want to finish on?
No, man. I want to get a plug in if I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Be sure if you like my shit, check me out. Me and Chad Roper, Cool 94.3 every morning on the radio dial, like that KECO Facebook page as well. I do the back roads from 3 to 6 p.m. So check that out, man. And then you'll get content. We also do the Jackwagon podcast, fresh episode every Friday. So just search up the Jackwagon podcast. It's pretty much in all the places where Matt has his.
That's right.
And we also had him on our podcast. You can check that out. I think that was episode 3 that you were on with us.
I think so.
Yeah, so go check that out. And I'll have video for that coming up later. We're about to release our 10th episode, and I think we're going to start bringing out the video with it, which is also uncensored. So look forward to that convo with Matt. He cussed a lot.
Good. I probably did. Man, those bleeps are wearing me out, dude. I'll be glad to see the video, the uncensored video. But yeah, thanks for coming, man. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to you coming back, Drew.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Well, goodbye. And don't think it hasn't been a little slice of heaven, because it hasn't.